Okay, so we're gonna record this so that everyone has this information later. I'm gonna actually close my door because I would have laughed my neighbors. We have a new office and the walls are very thin. Um, I'm Jamie Jeanette. I am with Health, Housing, and Homeless Services. I am part of the CoC team, which is the continuum of care. We kind of help hold the wheels onto the whole system of care. And one of the things we do is offer these trainings every month. And these trainings, I'll talk about in a little bit. I'm going to share some slides. Let me just see if I can get this to pull up. Things are on the screen. 1 second. Okay, here we go. And Mary, I'm going to let everybody in. Okay, great. So can everybody see that slide deck? We're good. So today we're going to hear from our Contra Costa Employment and Human Services Department Adult Protective Services team. And we're going to talk about mandated reporting for older adults and vulnerable adults. You'll hear more about what this means. Just a few housekeeping things. So one is we're going to keep everybody muted unless it's time for questions. You're welcome to answer or ask questions in the chat as well. You can do those at any point, and we may be able to answer them while you're in the chat or pause. When it's time to ask questions, if you can, we ask you to raise your little virtual hand. We are going to send out a recording of this as well as the slide deck. And we are going to do a survey at the end that we'll just ask you how the training went. So that helps us, see how it's going. I'm going to launch a quick poll, which is we also want to find out who's in the room. So let me just, there we go. So we always do this for every meeting and training we have. I know it says 2025, but I lied. It's actually 2026. So if you have a minute, just answer. So we ask about for these trainings and for our meetings, we just want to see how the demographics of who we're bringing and training and who's working in our system of care matches the demographics of the people that we're serving. So we asked about race, ethnicity. We asked about experience of homelessness. We asked about you and what kind of agency you work for, if you work for one, what your role is, because this is going to help our presenters see. And then a little bit about age. And again, this is all just to help us make sure that we're targeting the folks that we want to target to come to these kind of things. So I'm going to let that run for a little bit while I do a little bit more of this. So training norms and agreements. So we go through these every time, and I'll say we've never had an issue, but we always just like to frame it. So we ask folks that respect the trainer and respect each other. And that means you may disagree, and that's okay, but we're going to do it respectfully. The last three are really just about like how much space that you're taking up in the training. So make space, take space. So I always say, like, I'm a big talker, so my challenge is to like make more space. And for other folks that maybe are a little more shy or less likely to take a risk, this is a good opportunity, low stakes, to maybe take up some more space. Share the mic. So this again is like, I always have like 7 questions, and I always try and like maybe pick one. So we're also going to help moderate, but if you have lots to say, chat is great. But share the mic, and then acknowledging power and privilege, right? So we all come to the world with different privileges and powers, and also sometimes positions where we don't have as much. So just thinking about that as we're in this space, thinking about our own power and privilege. We do these trainings monthly, and they're really designed for homeless service providers to build skills and learn the information that are considered really essential for people doing this work, either by HUD, who's the federal government, our biggest funder, or what we as a system of care have decided. So this is one of those ones where HUD doesn't require it, but we think this is important. They're hosted typically the second Monday of every month, and they're required. This is just a little thing, especially for some of those ones that are really required in our guidance documents and whatever. We just make sure that each agency has at least one representative. I'm about to turn it over, but let me just end the poll and I'm going to share the results. So trainers, you can take a look, especially as we look at questions 3 and 4. So almost everybody here is working for a homeless service provider agency. And folks have a variety of roles. We have mobile outreach, housing navigation, and case management is kind of the biggest. So as we roll into this training, I want folks to just think, and we do this for every training, this is just like a lens to put over in your brain as we're taking in all this information. Really thinking about, when we talk about equity, are there different experiences for different groups of people based often on qualities or factors or identities that they don't have control over, right? Could be race, ethnicity, could be ability, disability, could be gender, all these different things. So thinking about, have you noticed inequities or differences in groups in your own work? As we talk about vulnerable adults, have you maybe contributed or possibly interrupted some of these inequities? And then thinking about what kind of barriers might still exist and how they might be addressed. These are all rhetorical. We're not asking you to answer these necessarily, but just to kind of hold that in your brain. And with that, I'm going to turn things over to David Gallegos and Erica Sa. Erica, did I say your last name right?
Very close. Erica Shaw.
Yeah. Shaw. Okay, great. From Adult Protective Services. And I'm going to stop sharing because they're going to share. And I'm going to zip my lip over here.
Okay, thank you, Jamie, and thank you. Before we start, would you mind maybe making Mary co-host as well so she can help admit from the waiting room?
Oh, yes. Sorry, I thought she was. Maybe Mary, you left and came back. Okay, thank you. Okay, sorry about that.
There we go.
No, thank you.
Share. Okay. All right, then thank you, Jamie and Mary and the rest of the team. Thank you for having us. My name is Erica Shaw. I'm one of the senior staff assistants with Adult Protective Services. And I'll kick us off today with the first half of the training, and then I'll pass it off to my colleague Daisy for the second half. And we'll have some polls and chats feel free to write your questions in the chat or just interact with us, and then we'll have time at the end for questions and some case reviews so you can see what pull it all together. All right, so as I said, I'm one of the senior staff assistants, and as the senior staff assistant at APS, I manage the grants and the programs and the outreach within APS. And so I do along with Daisy, I do the trainings like today and a lot of the presentations for mandated reporters on how to report elder and dependent adult abuse, in addition to doing outreach within the community with the seniors and dependent adults as well. And it looks like in the poll earlier today, there's a good amount who work with seniors and adults. It could, but possibly dependent adults. And so we'll go over what the criteria is for APS specifically, and so you can see what our department serves. And so for today's agenda, we'll share overview of Adult Protective Services, or APS, and what APS can or cannot do, because I think that is really important to understand what our department does, and then in addition, how we can collaborate together. And because a lot of older adults and dependent adults can make decisions for themselves, but even if it may not be the same as what we would like for them to make, we always aim to step away and just leave them in a better and different place. So this is the agenda for today, and I'll get started. So as an overview, APS is under EHSD of Contra Costa County. And so Employment and Health Human Services Department is essentially our social services department in the county. And EHSD overall has 9 bureaus, but today we just sort of listed a few of them for just for today. And so we have Aging and Adult Services, Children and Family Services, Community Services, which is like Head Start would be in there, and Workforce Services. And so, of course, Adult Protective Services, because we serve older adults and dependent adults, it falls under Aging and Adult Services Bureau. And in addition to Aging and Adult Services Bureau, we have other departments such as IHSS, our AAA, Area Agency on Aging, and General Assistance and other divisions. Okay, all right. So APS as a whole, we are a county agency that mainly investigates abuse, neglect, and exploitation. And so we a team of a whole department of social workers that investigate and manage the immediate situation and refer any clients to resources and referrals in the community. And so we're essentially investigating to ensure that these individuals aren't being taken advantage of by their providers, families, others, or even, themselves. But you are, as a mandated reporter, you would not be an investigator. You don't need to know the full scope before making a report. But if you, that's why in today's training, we'll go over what maybe signs of abuse, and then so you have a better idea of what could be considered and what you could report. And so always, if you're if you're out in the field and you're case managing or you're helping your client and a participant tells you something that is of concern, or you observe any potential signs of abuse or neglect, you can make the report to APS and then let your supervisor know as well. And so at APS, we typically have cases open for, it's 30 to 60 to 90 days. But we also are not case managers ourselves, but we overall will work with individuals, we'll work with the families, we'll work with friends, neighbors, and community members to ensure that the client's safety is met and supported. And then we'll provide the different sources to help client remain safe in their environment. So that's an overall of APS, but in order to have APS provide services, they must be a resident of Contra Costa County. And then they have to be an older adult who is age 60 and above now in California. And then a dependent adult is age 18 to 59, and they have to have some sort of physical or mental limitation. And so their limitations essentially impact their ability to perform their activities of daily living. So that could be bathing, grooming, or perhaps needing IHSS support. And so when making a report, later on, Daisy will go more into this, we'll please specify, what type of ADL perhaps they cannot complete, or if there's any specific details in that way. And so oftentimes when an individual may just have more mild intellectual disabilities, but who are overall just very independent, that may not qualify them as a dependent adult. And so you can always focus, a good thought is just focusing on reporting clients who may need more consistent, more hands-on support with ADLs. Okay, and then so just as an overall picture, pulling back the bird's eye view, just looking at Contra Costa County older adult population. This is from the California Department of Aging dashboard. Just as you can see, there's a trend. I'm sure you've all experienced it yourself and seen it within your clients. You can see a trend of just older adult population growing within the past 5 years. So in 2020, 22% of the total population was age 60 and above. And just from these past 5 years, all the way up to last year, has grown to 26%. And this will likely just continue as our population grows and ages. Okay, all right. So here is an overview of what APS can or cannot do. Sometimes APS interventions can be misunderstood or compared to Child Protective Services, but now in our county, we call it Children and Family Services, so it's CFS for short. And so the main thing I think to keep in mind is unlike CFS, APS doesn't remove any of the adults, older adult or dependent adults from their homes or nor force any services because APS clients are all adults and they all have the right to make their own decisions. So oftentimes, even if there is like clear abuse that you see, our social workers can go out and then get in contact with the client, and then but the older adult or dependent adult can refuse services. And so our social workers will always will respond to the reports, but the clients throughout the, from point of contact in the beginning till the end, at any point in part throughout the investigation, the client can deny the issue or decline help. And because APS is always, it is a voluntary program. And of course, the client can refuse or change their mind or withdraw consent at any point during the investigation. And we just overall, we honor their autonomy and agency, and our social workers cannot do conservatorships. But if a individual appears to lack capacity to give consent, so their social worker could look into it and see how to work with other agencies to see if that's how to work together. And so overall, we support their right to live in the client's right to live in the least restrictive environment. We don't necessarily want them to go into a board of care or assisted living unless it's absolutely necessary. And oftentimes, I think if you all have made a report in one instance, point of time, if you see the same situation a few weeks later or a few months later, it may be because that's why it could be like the client refused services at that time and not necessarily because APS didn't respond. But if you're always welcome to make another report again, if you feel like the situation has changed or it's become even worse, or there's more details that was different from the initial report. And so our APS social workers will always aim to give the individual the as much support and resources as possible to stop the abuse and neglect at that time, but they won't impose services. And lastly, APS doesn't disclose who made the report, so that's always confidential. And yeah, that's always confidential. And we are also not law
Works better.
law enforcement, and so we don't act as law, but we'll sometimes work with law enforcement as when needed. And we can't take control of anyone's finances as well, but we'll suggest resources and provide. We have a whole big, financial scam packet, for example, that will provide resources and to assist the client as much as possible. Okay, all right, and then so our main roles as an APS worker and responsibility is to investigate, of course, investigate the abuse or neglect. And they're mainly assessing for safety and decision-making capacity and the environmental risk. And though we cannot diagnose decision-making capacity, social worker or worker can bring in resources or work with medical professional to determine that. And so through that, in order to do the investigations, our workers will conduct, unannounced home visits just to look at the client's day-to-day conditions. They'll assess the home environment for safety, or if there's any emergency or non-emergency safety issues at risk for continued abuse or neglect. And through the investigation, the worker will interview the client. Typically, they'll interview them alone, and then from there, engage with any of the families, friends, or neighbors, or anyone else involved, and possibly interview the suspected abusers as well. And so we'll cross-report to any agency, external agency, such as law enforcement as well. And then the worker will develop a plan with the client or their representative to link the client with any services such as medical, legal, care, financial, and just collaborating with any community partners. And just overall advocating for just the safety and the right of the vulnerable adult, older, and dependent. All right, and then so just as a reminder, APS doesn't impose any services or their will on the client if the client is making any conscious decision. Okay. All right, so before we go into the types of abuse and signs of what you can see, what you can potentially see, what do you think are the highest allegations that we receive in our county? So this is a poll.
Yep.
I wonder if someone could help me.
Yep, I was just
launch
looking,
this.
I think I
Yes.
set Mary as the actual host instead of co-host, and now
Okay.
I can't launch the poll. Let me see what I can find. Mary, are you back? Can you launch the polls? I made you host and now I can't launch it. It's
Yes.
poll number 1. Sorry.
APS training question number 1, correct?
Correct.
Here we
Thank
go,
you.
folks.
Sorry.
Thank you.
I think I called you last week because we put them a message. So, okay, hold on. Thomas? He's not at home. Okay, so we'll have to reschedule. Okay, thank you.
How are we doing on responses?
All righty, it looks like 75 folks have responded. Give it another moment and then we're gonna wrap up. Please respond to the poll if you haven't done so. All righty, gonna go ahead and end it.
Thank you.
And if you share out the response, it should give us the right answer. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Perfect.
There we go. Yes. So you may see that we left one off, but we'll go into it later. But usually this is a good question for people to think about because we often don't think self-neglect is a type of abuse. But I see majority has answered it correctly. So self-neglect is the correct answer. That is our highest allegation. But of course, I'm sure many people are thinking in the back of their minds, what about financial? That is our second highest allegation. All right, I will continue. I'll stop sharing. And next slide. Okay. Yes, so these are the types of abuse. I'll go over briefly into each one. But as you as a mandated reporter, again, you are not expected to investigate or know all the details or push for any details into these types of abuse. But if you notice these signs as you're interacting with your client or working with them over a period of time that you see them, you can report them to APS. And then again, these, when you're working, I'm sure these are not, everything easily falls into one bucket. One allegation can connect to another allegation. So keep that in mind. It could be, of course, multiple types of abuse going on at the same time. All right. Okay. So physical abuse is probably the one that most people, easily know or just think about. So this is physical abuse, including sexual assault. And oftentimes this includes over medication as well, over medication, under medication, and just any visible injuries, such as your bruises, cuts, and then any fearful or just inconsistent explanations regarding these physical signs. And so I think just noticing when injuries don't match the explanation of how they occurred, or sometimes we see, I think hot water burns, in like just like upper body or lower body extremities. Okay, so that's physical and sexual assault. And neglect. Okay, so neglect is one of our more common types of abuse, especially self-neglect, as you all already know. But neglect, the difference between the two is that neglect is when a client is under another person's care, so another caregiver or family member, and that caregiver or the family member is not meeting, and the client is not getting their basic needs met through, food, medication, hygiene, or etc. And self-neglect is when someone who's not under anyone's care and just is unable to care for themselves. So, for example, they could not be bathing, or they're not able to manage their own medications or finances, or just an overall safe home environment. And so you can self-report a self-neglect even if the person lives alone. And so common signs of self-neglect is poor hygiene, hoarding. If they're homeless, that would be considered, not taking medications or not paying bills. And so if someone refuses to clean their home environment or manage their basic needs, you can still make a report to APS, and the APS from there can check in with the client and offer any support as needed. And we'll go into the types of support that APS offers later on with Daisy. Okay, and then so next one is emotional or psychological abuse or mental abuse. So these include verbal assaults, threats, humiliation. Humiliation is often a common sign that we often see, and then through that isolating the person. And so any signs of emotional abuse might include depression or anxiety and just overall behavior changes. And it can also include like treating the adult like a child, or just in a way that just minimizes their age and experience. And so you can look at what's happening, what's creating that fear and anxiety for that older adult or dependent adult. Isolation is another one, just overall preventing someone from being in contact with the community. It could either be preventing them from getting their mail, phone calls, or any visitors, just overall, and confining them to a room. And abduction is when a individual is removed from California and then they're prevented from coming back. And then this can happen, especially when the individual lacks capacity to consent that move. And then from there, APS would potentially collaborate with other state or law enforcement. So abandonment usually happens when someone is left without any care or proper care, and no arrangements are made for the client. And so it could mean leaving someone alone when they can't care for themselves, or then just dropping off at the hospital without giving any information, and just walking away without finding an alternative caregiver. And so if someone, for the hospital part, so if someone stays to provide information at the hospital, that would not be considered abandonment, but leaving someone there without any further support or arrangement would be considered. All right, okay, and then so financial abuse is the second most reported allegation in our county. I'm sure you get financial scams and et cetera on yourself as well. But overall, it can involve a stranger or family members or people they know. And so it's just overall just misusing an older adult or dependent adult's funds through fraud, identity theft, or embezzlement. And it could come from their caregivers, people they know, or strangers. And some warning signs to watch out for is just unexplained financial issues, there's missing money or belongings, items, unusual withdrawals from bank accounts, and changes in legal documents. And then I think maybe even watching out for if knowing that utility bills or rent bills are unpaid when someone is supposed to be helping pay for them. And then watching for people like friends or family, or even people who are online, who suddenly show a strong interest in the client's finances. And financial abuse can also include misusing their use of power of attorney or conservator to control the client's assets. Okay, all right. So in the chat, if you can type in what you think are one of the most common financial scams that affects older adults. So the next slide, I'll list some of our most common, and then in the chat, you can just list the type that you think may be more common. I'll take a look. Right, yeah, looks like we have a whole wide range. Yes, there is. I think you guys are essentially are all correct because these are very common. But I think the hedging a little bit ahead is often we see a lot of romance scams.
Yeah,
as well. Oh yeah, and then we'll leave it to Daisy. I'll switch off to Daisy now. I was about to keep going, just yapping away.
All right, hi everyone. So yeah, my name is Daisy Gallegos. I'm a senior staff assistant as well with Erica at Adult Protective Services. And you guys are right. These are our top scams that we see here in our Contra Costa County. But actually the highest allegation or the highest type of scam that unfortunately our elders see is a romance scam. A lot of our elders unfortunately isolate and don't go out and socialize as much. So they're meeting people online, on social media, where they're fishing to be this person, a younger person, or a person that they believe are friends with other mutual friends. They'll talk to them for like weeks to months to years, and out of nowhere start asking for money, start saying that they have an emergency and or some type of crisis, and they really would need some help. And a lot of our elders then send them money, and at that point they think that they're in a relationship with this person or in a friendship with this person, so they just want to help them, but they're not seeing how this person's actually just using them. And a lot of the time they've never even seen these the scammers. They're usually overseas or in a different state. And unfortunately, scammers are now using AI to do fake like FaceTimes or video chats. So a part of mine and Erica's role is to talk about this, bring more awareness to this, so that way our clients are not falling for these scams. Other scams that a lot of you guys mentioned is when someone is impersonating IRS, Social Security, or some type of health insurance, saying that if you don't fix this problem, pay this bill, we're going to send you to collections, and really scare our clients into providing financial information over the phone. Others are tech support, saying that their computer has a virus and you need to click this link and they'll help erase the virus, but really they're trying to get access to their computers. Lottery or sweepstakes, they'll tell a victim that they just won the lottery, they just need to pay some fees or taxes up front to claim their prize, but the prize never exists. So we always tell our clients, if you didn't apply for any kind of sweepstakes, it's probably not real. So giving them just a heads up on that. And then lastly, the grandparent scam, which is one of the other ones that we see pretty frequently, where they will call our clients and let them know that they're a grandchild, that they're in jail or hospital or some foreign country and they need financial support immediately. Sometimes they're often asking for like a gift card. So that's kind of a red flag to look out for. We have been telling our clients, or when we do outreach to elder community centers, to ask maybe create some type of like code or password with their family members so they can verify the caller. Or if they're not familiar with the number, maybe hang up and call a family member and say, is this true? Are they really overseas or are they somewhere here or there? To not fall for the tactics of scaring them and thinking that they need to act now or provide that information immediately. Next slide. And so just kind of summarize the allegations that Erica provided here, just kind of some common indicators of abuse. So unexplained bruise, cuts, burns, or fractures, sudden changes in their behavior, maybe being more withdrawal or having anxiety or depression, if they have poor hygiene, if there's sudden changes in their finances, if they're being isolated from their friends, family, unusual activities, if maybe they're scared when talking about a certain person or a situation, if they're living in unsafe, unsanitary conditions, if they maybe feel they look confused or their cognitive is changing, and maybe if they're reporting about some type of humiliation or belittling from someone. Next slide. And so this is from the reports from 2025. As we mentioned, self-neglect is our highest allegation, followed by financial. A lot of our reports are coming from, we get about 6,000 reports a year. A lot of our reports come from Central County, whereas East and West County are half of that. So it's important for us to do a lot of outreach with East and West because we know it's happening all over the county equally. And we want to make sure that people know how to report to us, what it means when APS goes out there, so that they can consent to services. So just bringing more awareness of APS services because we want all reports to be submitted. Next slide. So we have another poll. This is who do you think is most often the alleged abuser in Contra Costa County? So if you can get that poll up, please, and then everybody can submit their answers. So do you guys?
Righty. Folks should be able to see it. Here we go. We'll give it a minute. Let's answer. Right, some responses coming in. Go ahead, Daisy.
Yeah, so here it would be a family member, a caregiver, or some provider, friends, neighbors, strangers, scammers, or not sure.
Alrighty, folks, if you have not answered yet, please take a moment to answer the poll. Give it another 5 seconds or so here. Who we think is most often the alleged abuser. Alrighty, I'll wrap it up.
Yeah, so the correct answer is a family member. They're typically who are being reported for being the alleged abuser. So we can close this poll. Could you go to the next slide, please, Erica? So here is the data from 2025. The 51% unknown is either a scammer or a stranger, or the reporting party did not know who to list. So we always look at the data that we do have, which 22% is an adult child that is causing the abuse and neglect, followed by other relatives, and then followed by spouse, 10%. A lot of the times when it is an adult child who is causing the abuse, it's a little harder for APS to come in and help the clients because they fear that they don't want to get their child in trouble, or they don't want to get out of their normal living situation. They're scared that APS is going to move them to an assisted living or a different environment, and they just would rather stay in the same situation. So they sometimes do not accept services. It's important that our social workers go out there and they are very sensitive to the situation and let them know that they're just there to provide additional services, additional supportive services, whether that's getting them IHSS or helping their adult child become an IHSS provider so that they are getting paid for the help that they're giving their parents. So we always want to disclose to them that we're there just to help out and not get anybody in trouble, or just make sure that they have the resources that they need. And here is a roadmap to our APS services. So we kind of want you guys to have an idea of what it looks like when you guys make a report to us. So you guys make a report to APS. It would go through our APS supervisor screening. So they'll read all the reports that come in every single day. They'll see if they fall under APS criteria. So are they 16 older or are they a dependent adult? What makes them a dependent adult? So if you make a report to us and it's a person who's 50, they have maybe an intellectual disability, maybe they need help with transportation, but they can work independently, that wouldn't qualify for APS. If you have someone who's 55, but maybe is wheelchair bound and they need someone to help them cook meals and take medication, that would be considered a dependent adult. So it's very important that you list the type of diagnosis that they have or what disabilities that they have. And then, depending on what the information is provided in the report can then have different response times. So we're not a crisis response team. We actually only work business hours Monday to Friday, 8 to 5. So when you make a report, depending on the situation, the social workers can either go out immediately, within 24 hours, 2 to 4 days, and up to 10 days. So just depending on the urgency of the report. So when it gets assigned to a social worker, the social worker then has that response time to go out and do a home visit. They will do an unannounced home visit, so that way, they can kind of see what their regular living situation is like. They interview not just the victims, but also the alleged abusers, family members, friends, neighbors, anybody that might know of the situation to get a good scope of what is going on. And then they will then determine what referrals and resources the client needs if they do accept services. Cases are typically open anywhere from 30 days to 90 days. Could be shorter, could be longer, just depending on what the situation is. If there's other people making reports of different situations for that same person, they would all just get merged together. So it's important that you guys just report whatever you hear or see, because it's possible that somebody else made a report with more information or less information, and then these cases would just get merged. And if you go out, like Erica mentioned, if you see something still continuing to happen and new things occur, you can always just make more reports if need be, because maybe the client didn't accept services the first time, but something changed, or maybe it was a different social worker and went about it differently, then they might then accept services. So you guys just never know, and I think it's always better to report than not report. Next slide. So here are current services. These programs are the contracts that Eric and I manage for APS. The first one being the Home Safe program, which some of you guys have heard of. This is to create safety and housing stability for elders and dependent adults experiencing homelessness or at risk of homelessness. Fortunately, here at APS Home Safe, we're pretty flexible with the term at risk of homelessness. So for us, this means if a person is being evicted, whether that's a formal eviction or maybe a verbal warning that they might be evicted if they don't fix a certain problem. So if maybe they're hoarding or they haven't paid 2 months rent and the landlord said, if you don't pay us soon, we will start the eviction process. Or maybe they're living in an abusive situation. Maybe they're living with their adult child where they feel maybe like a burden to their family, or the family member is neglecting them, and they just need more support, but they don't have the resources to move out on their own. That can be considered at risk of homelessness if APS does not help. So to receive home safe services, you have to be an APS client. It's important that when you make a report to APS, you're not just saying this person needs home safe support, because that won't go through our screening process. We need to know, what qualifies them for APS, what is a safety concern for abuse and neglect, and then you can say they're at risk of homelessness or they are homeless. And then the social worker will then determine whether they will make a referral to Home Safe. So say they go through the the APS process, the referrals will then come over to me. We'll all review and make sure that they are falling under those two homeless or at risk definition. And then we would make a referral over to our partners at H3 and Hope Solutions, who provide the direct services. Things we can do is like short-term financial assistance, maybe first month's rent, security deposit, help them with their if they have a hoarding issue, we can help them with heavy cleaning. If they need help with temporary housing, if they have a housing plan in place, we can then help them with temporary housing. We do have a budget for each client. If you're at risk of homelessness, we can spend up to $2,500. If you're homeless, we can spend up to $5,000. This contract was supposed to end in June of this year, next month, but we were very lucky that it got renewed for 2 more years. So we're just hoping it continues to be renewed. And then another program that we have is a multidisciplinary team meeting, or the financial abuse strike team meeting, which we call MDT and FAST. This is a very, very important meeting that we have that it's once a month virtually, where sometimes our social workers or other community partners have a complicated case where they feel they don't know what to do anymore. They've done everything that they can, and they just kind of need help from the community. They will bring this case to MDT or FAST and say, I've done everything I can, I need help. And we basically have like all the partners in one room. So, a lot of us have different jurisdictions, different things that we can do and not do because of our positions or our agencies. Here, we'll kind of bring a case and say, like, what can you do? What can you do? And like kind of hold everybody accountable so that this client gets all the help that they need and they don't just fall through the cracks and continue to get abused by whoever. So if you ever want to be a part of this MDT or FAST, anybody that could come, it is virtual. You just have to sign a confidentiality agreement. And then Eric and I facilitate these meetings, and then we create action plans so that way we're all doing our parts and making sure that the client is getting the support that they need. And we'll keep these cases on our agenda until need be. And then other contracts that we have is a money management contract. This is so clients who may be being financially abused need help like setting bill pay, going through their bank statements, helping them get a rep payee. Then we have our own heavy cleaning contract with East Bay Men's Recovery. So maybe they're not being evicted. They didn't even get any kind of warning that they might be evicted. And so that's where we can't help them with Home Safe. We have a contract with East Bay Men's who then they can provide the heavy cleaning services. And our social workers do provide very small amount of case management. They'll provide the resources and referrals that they need. But because we get so many cases a month, we cannot keep cases open for very long. So if they need more hands-on support and more referrals and resources, we then refer them to Choice and Aging for enhanced case management services. Next slide. All right, so now we're going to break up in groups and review a couple of cases. We have about 4 cases. So we will put them in the chat. Erica, if you can do that for us. We have, I believe, 4 cases. And in your guys' group, you guys will determine if this victim is an elder or dependent adult. Would you report it? What are the allegations? What key information would you provide to APS? And what resources would you recommend? So we'll break down in those groups and we'll come back and maybe one person can kind of answer these questions. And when you break down in groups, I believe you can go back into the chat and still see all the cases. So I think Erica, you can break.
Yeah, so I'll split the breakout rooms by just groups of 4. So, and then each breakout room is named by just group 1, 2, 3, 4, and they'll just correspond with the ones in the chat. So hopefully that will work. And then, so we'll be in the group, breakout room for, 10 minutes, we said, Daisy? Great.
Let's do 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, then I'll do 5 minutes. And okay, open the rooms. Oh.
I'm back. I'm happy to hang out in this main room if that's useful. We need any. Or to pop into any of the rooms if I'm useful. Just let me-
Okay. Just assigning some randomly because get started.
Did I miss my group?
I think it's just, I don't know why some are not. Let me see. if
Is
I
this
can-
the group?
No, I'm assigning right now I think some maybe from the waiting room got left off. So I'm just putting you guys in. It should be automatic. Thank you. Okay. Did I get everyone?
I totally got kicked out. I'm
Oh,
not sure.
no.
I'm not sure what happened. I got kicked out.
Oh, no. Do you remember which group you're in?
No.
No. Okay.
It kicked me out as soon as it went in and just closed me out.
Of course, that's how it goes. Let me see. How do I don't even see your name here.
I was in the one with Brittany Ferguson. I don't know if that helps. I saw her face right before it kicked me out.
Yeah, I'm trying to see.
I got kicked out too.
I think I found how to move them. I'm just gonna randomly
Okay.
plug them in.
Okay.
Kayla, you should see
Yeah, I can't see
something.
Kayla's name.
Leticia. There we go.
There we go.
And what I went to, Erica,
Yeah.
is the participants list on the breakout screen and found her alphabetically.
Ah, okay, okay. Got it, got it.
I'm just gonna hang out here with you.
Yeah, we'll hang out here.
She's helping, yeah, because she, yeah. Okay, yeah, sure. And yeah, man, because there are certain homes that are larger, but other towns primary. But you have all kinds of. enough developmentally, and even if you're in a, like to a certain degree, that's enough, that's an absolute.
All right, I think 5 minutes is up. I'm just gonna close them all for them. Hopefully they're done.
5 minutes goes by quick.
I know, right? I was like, that was a fast 5 minutes.
Awesome. Welcome back, people. My group was great, group number 4. So we can go and maybe just spend a minute just to talk about each breakout room. Is there somebody from breakout number 1 that wants to?
I'm not sure which group we were in.
We were number 1, Marvell. Go ahead.
Oh, so we kind of touched on a few things. We talked about cybersecurity. We also talked about reaching out to Direct Express or a traditional bank just to let them know what's going on. We also talked about reaching out to the landlord and letting the landlord know that the client does have support. And we could send out a letter to them, letting them know that this particular person does have support, and we're willing to work with them on their rent. Um, so that's just a few things that we kind of touched on in our group. If anyone else want to add, that'd be awesome.
Is this
Rolanda, I think, said a mental health assessment.
and this person an elder, dependent adult, and what allegations did you guys see?
She's an elder. We
Mm-hmm.
would report. Allegation is financial abuse.
Mm-hmm.
I think we identified age, the activity of wire being sent to someone who was claiming to be helping to her, but she'd never met online. She's also in a potential eviction situation. And so in addition to what Maribel mentioned, we'd also refer her to Home Safe
Mm-hmm.
and or other EHSD services if needed.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, this is something we frequently see in our county, unfortunately. A lot of the times people want to start investing or hear of a great deal and want to invest some of their life savings to this stuff. And unfortunately, scammers do know that elders have a lot of assets, so they target them to try to get them to fall for these scams. But yeah, a lot of the things, if the client accepts services, we could potentially help them refer them to money management services so that they can get kind of their finances in order. Maybe making a referral to Home Safe so that they can help with the rent utility bills to make sure they get back on their feet. And then our referral for financial help maybe can go through and see changing their passwords to things and getting seeing how we can potentially try to get their money back. If it was a wire, we can see where it was sent to, making a report to law enforcement. But if the scam happened overseas, those ones are typically pretty hard for us to get the money back. But giving education on scams and what to look out for can potentially help the client again in the future. All right, who was a part of group 2? Can anybody help answer some of these questions? Anybody from group 2?
Don't be shy now, folks. Who was in group 2? Let's see.
Oh, there.
Go ahead, Scott.
Hi. Yes, there were a number of us, but I think that we looked at, for better or for worse, this same one of the first example. So we focused on it. I think we got it all. So I apologize if we missed our other opportunity.
No worries. So you guys focus on question 1, was it?
Number 1.
Okay, okay. So yeah, we can kind of just talk about number 2. This person's Mr. Garcia, 62. He lives alone, limited food in a home, managed medical conditions. A neighbor shares that he avoids seeking help due to fear relating to his immigration status. He only speaks Spanish. So this person is considered a elder. He could be reported to APS for self-neglect because he doesn't have that much food at home. He's not taking care of his medical conditions. Um, and we do not even ask about immigration status. We won't ask for that, any of that kind of information. We have a couple of Spanish-speaking social workers, and if they are not available, we do have a language line that we use for any language for our clients. So we can definitely help them out. Our social workers can potentially go and just have help them get supportive services for food, or maybe trying to see why he's not taking care of his medical needs, whether that's maybe he doesn't have insurance or he doesn't have help with transportation. APS can help set that up. So it's important that our social workers again are sensitive and let them know that despite their background, we can help them with the proper services. All right, did anybody focus on question 3? I'm assuming everybody focused on question 1, which is totally fine. I will just ask the question out loud, and maybe somebody can volunteer to think if they would report this to APS or not.
Oh, we did question 3.
Oh, perfect.
So question 3, we found that a lot of people, the client was wheelchair bound. So we were wondering whether he needs to go to Home Safe, as well as did he get evaluated for mental health because he's now 45 and he's breaking down. He's a hoarder. So he's also close to eviction because he's 4 months out. So that's probably the red label on the door. So he needed a number of services, but he's also hooked up with Department of Rehab. So what's going on with their case manager checking in on him? So those were part of the safety issues for him. We don't know whether he could get out because he's a hoarder, because he was wheelchair bound, whether he was safe in there. So the safety check would also definitely have been called for right away. Find out what's going on.
Yes, yes, I agree. So he doesn't have any family members, but he does, well, he should have a support system with the regional center case manager. So that's something that as direct providers or APS social workers can go and link with that regional center case manager. He does luckily have some type of income, so we can work with that. Giving a referral over to HomeSafe for helping maybe clean up his home so he won't be in a hoarding situation anymore and maybe helping him with the back rent. But we also want to see what happened. Why hasn't he been paying his rent? Where did that money go in the last 4 months? And what's going on with the hoarding. Maybe he needs more hand support to help him clean the clutter in his home, or maybe help him with mental health services if hoarding is just an issue that he has personally. So definitely a lot of potential resources here if he accepts their services.
What if he had early on stage dementia because he is in that memory loss thing?
Right.
How would you address something where he doesn't know for himself?
Right. So our social workers cannot make the diagnosis, but they can kind of do like a minor like assessment and then refer him to see his medical provider to get that evaluation completed. If he does have that, the doctor would diagnose him and then APS can help with potential resources and or the hospital social worker. But the client has to agree to go to his provider to make that determination. All right, so then lastly, we have question number or case number 4. Who wants to review that from my group?
I'll do it.
Thank you.
No worries. So we had the scenario with an 85-year-old woman who was living with her family. I think it was her daughter and son-in-law. She was living in a back shack that had no water or heat. So obviously they are an elder, being 85 and up. This is something we decided that we would report as she is living in an unsafe and uninhabitable um, room or shack. The allegations, again, she's just living in an uninhabitable environment. Key information that we would give to APS is the environment of the unit, as well as some specifics of her not having an income, which would make it hard for her to move or to be able to afford to live somewhere else outside of that unit, and some resources we would recommend, again, are getting an income to find some more potentially fit places to live for her, and some overall support for her and the family unit as a whole. She feels most comfortable living with the family at an older age. We know that it is not the best to put seniors in places that they may not know. So trying to keep the family unit together. So again, finding income resources for her, and then resources for the family as a whole to potentially keep her with the family, but safely. And I
Yeah,
might have missed something, so if my group members have something, please add.
that was great. Thank you. Yeah.
Question.
Oh, go ahead.
Hi. When I read it, it says that it doesn't have running water, but does she have access to water? Like, is there a bathroom near her? Like, do you have to have water in your in your room? And then like, can there be resources to help clean it up, to help fix it up, rather than break up the family?
Right. Yeah. So when we get these reports, sometimes this is like the minimum information that we get. So that our social workers need to go out and investigate. So does she have access to the toilet? Do they let her go into the main house to use the toilet to shower? Um, that's something that we want to look at because sometimes they don't allow the clients to go in there. They say like, no, you can't come. And so uh these clients are just, not going to the restroom, going outside, or whatever the case may be. But say they do have access to them, and that's a different story. So that's when we want to go out there and see, like, okay, so they said they had no running water, air conditioner, or heater. Is this something that APS can pay for? Can we pay for maybe a little heater that they can connect if they have electricity out there, or some type of like a mobile air conditioner. We want to respect that she doesn't want to move, that she wants to be close to the family. Maybe the family doesn't have the resources to provide um, cleaning in her home. So then we can go out there and help her get IHSS or some type of caregiver. We can help make that studio more livable, right? So these are just kind of the cases that we get. She has no income, so like we stated maybe getting her signed up for depending on if she qualifies, getting her SSI or some type of income, so that way it can help pay for these services long term, or APS can just pay for them upfront. So yeah, it just kind of all depends on what's going on. You guys don't have to, as mandated reporters, say, okay, what do you mean by no running water? Oh, what do you mean you don't have air conditioner? You can just hear whatever the client expresses to you and report that, and then APS will investigate to see exactly what that means. So you could list the daughter or son-in-law as neglect, or you can make this report as self-neglect because she doesn't want to move. She knows that these are some problems in her home, but she doesn't want to leave. She likes to live like that. It's very unsanitary, but she's living in this condition. We can just go in and then just provide the resources that they need. So this can go in two ways. We're not there to get the adult daughter in trouble because of her condition. We understand the client didn't want to leave, and she doesn't have the means to move out. So then we just go in and help them if they accept those services.
Okay.
Anybody have any questions about these cases? Awesome. All right, so we'll move forward with mandated reporting. So what
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, for some of these clients that an APS is report and they come out and do an evaluation, the qualifier, is it they have to have Medi-Cal, or is it's kind of every type of insurance?
We don't even they don't even have to have insurance. So anybody can be reported to APS no matter what kind of insurance that they have or income that they have, no income. Um, any kind of background, they can be reported to APS. They just either have to be an elder or a dependent adult. If they want specific kind of resources that they don't have that type of insurance that they need, APS can then help apply for these or give them a referral to some type of case manager so that they can enroll into that insurance. But most of our contracts that we talked about in the past are actually state funded or federal funded to get that for free.
Okay, so regardless of insurance, like I was basically, I guess my question was how to access it, but regardless, they can access those services, like maybe um, being able to, just the different services that you would have. That those are, there's no like I guess insurance that would have to qualify them.
No,
That
yeah, you would.
okay.
Um, Erica, can you go 2 slides back?
Can I ask a
Thank you.
question? What
Yeah.
about income? Is there like some income limitations, like you can't make more than this much or less than this much to get services?
No, not at all. So so we have 4 contracts. We have the Home Safe contract, which you guys heard here, and then we have money management heavy cleaning and case management.
Mm-hmm.
We do not ask for income. We don't ask what type of insurance. We don't ask any information as long as you're an elder or dependent adult that are being abused or neglected. That's literally the only qualification. If you're reported to APS, you qualify for these services for free. Of course,
Oh.
if we report you or you make a referral to the Home Safe program, and we're helping you with first month's rent, security deposit, or we're helping you get furniture. We're helping you with the short-term financial assistance. We're not going to pay your whole rent for a year, right? If you
Uh-huh.
have the means to pay your own rent, you will be paying after we help you kind of just set you up in permanent housing. But
Mm-hmm.
you're responsible for the remaining future payments. So
Okay.
if we need help, a contractor is going to help you with setting up your bill pay, helping you just kind of manage your finances. They'll help you for 3 months and then you're on your own. So it's not something, and if you want to pay for any of these services on your own, some of these contractors will allow you to stay with them long term, but that will be out of their pocket. So we don't charge for any of our services. These are all state funded, county funded, or federal funded.
Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yes, of course.
Appreciate that.
So what's a mandated reporter? So any mandated reporter who is in his or her professional capacity or within the scope of his or her employment has observed or has knowledge of an incident that appears to be abuse and neglect, or were told by an elder dependent adult that they are experiencing some type of abuse and neglect, must report it to APS. So this means if you work Monday through Friday and while you are working, you hear of some type of abuse and neglect, or someone tells you about it, you have to report that to APS. But say it's Saturday, you're at a farmer's market and you see an elderly person get pushed, that is not a requirement for you to make a report to us. You don't know their information, don't know of the incident. You could voluntarily report to us or let them know about us if you wanted to, but that's not a part of your job. Your job is only when you are at work during your work hours that you hear of any kind of abuse. That is when you are considered a mandated reporter. Next slide. So, how to report to APS. As a mandated reporter, you are required to report immediately via phone, and there's two numbers here. And then you have to follow up with a written report within 2 business days. So if you work Monday to Friday and you hear something about on Friday night, you have until Tuesday to make a report. But if you work Saturday, or if you work 7 days a week, you have 2 working days to make a written report. You can either do it online at reporttoaps.org. All the counties will come up and you will select Contra Costa County, and then you will complete the form online, which is called the SOC 341. Or you can fill out the form and then fax it over to us. But I feel like the easiest one is just to make the report online and then submit it over. In the next slide here, you will see what our SOC 341 form looks like. So you will put the victim's information, the suspected abuser's information. If it is self-neglect, you can just check that box off there. And then you would add your information and the details of the allegation. Once you're done completing this form, it's a quick fillable form. You just scroll back up to the top right side, you'll see the submit button. It's usually right above the date completed. So just make sure that you scroll back up and then select that button and it will send it directly to our inbox here at APS. And then those are the times where our APS supervisors will read these reports and see if they do qualify for our services or not. And then a social worker would then be assigned and do their investigation. Our social workers cannot call you guys back to provide any details of the report, whether that person accepted services or not, what the outcomes were, any of that information. A social worker might call you just to get more information if they need it, but they will not call back to give any updates because we do follow the HIPAA policies and cannot disclose that information. Next slide. Failing to report as a mandated reporter does have can provide or can be a criminal charge. If convicted, it could be up to 6 months in jail and or a $1,000 fine. And if the unreported abuse results to death or grave bodily injury, that could be up to 12 months in jail and or a $5,000 fine. So it's very, very important that you guys do report, follow those policies that you report via phone, and then follow up by a written report within 2 working days. Next slide. So he's kind of just an information that we would like to see with the allegation, who the victim is, what the allegation is, and what the who the abuser is, kind of maybe letting us know what their relationship is, if they have any history. Then important to have that APS criteria. Are they an elder, dependent adult? What makes them an elder and dependent adult? Adding their age, disability, impairment. And then on this day, this happened. Were you a witness? Do you have any details? Was law enforcement involved or any other provider? And then the reporting party, you can just let us know if you saw this or were you verbally informed. And then lastly, any safety concerns. So as I mentioned, we do unannounced home visits. So if you can let us know if there's any weapons in their home or just kind of what the situation is like at home. Maybe if you know that the abuser is there Mondays and Wednesdays, maybe a social worker could try to go days that where the alleged victim or alleged abuser is not there, so that way they can feel comfortable with talking to APS. And then if when reporting to law enforcement, next slide, if the suspected abuser results in serious bodily injury, please contact law enforcement first. So as I mentioned, we're not a crisis response team. So if there's any urgent matters that need to be dealt with, please call law enforcement so they can provide that immediate support within 2 hours, and then make a report to APS and let us know that law enforcement went out there. And if you have the police report information, please let us know. Because a lot of the times law enforcement does not report to us as they should. So law enforcement is helping out with whatever crisis is happening, and then APS can provide with more long-term services and support. So please let us know if law enforcement went out there. And then lastly, if a client lives in a licensed facility like a group home, a boarding care facility, a nursing home, that actually gets reported by our partners at Long-Term Care Ombudsman, which here in our county is called Empowered Aging. They do those investigations if they live in a licensed facility. So APS only does reports and investigations for people who live out in the community with their independently or with family members. But if they're in any kind of licensed facility, that's actually under ombudsman's jurisdiction. But you could make a report to them or us, and we just kind of cross-report to us depending on the details of the report. Okay, and then yeah, so we can start the questions now. But on the last slide, we do have our information, Erica and I. So if you have any specific questions that you have, you can email or call us and we'll be happy to help you. You can tell us about a case, or you can just, if you guys want to do more trainings or outreach with us, please just contact us. If you have any specific questions on cases that you're not sure if you should report it or not, you can always call our hotline and just provide the information there. But we cannot disclose any outcomes, any reports that were made. Just a little information there. So let's go through the Q&A or the chat. I think I saw a couple of questions.
Yeah, Daisy, there was a question about if a mutual client agrees to an ROI, could APS then share info and coordinate?
I believe so. I know when we make referrals from our contractors, you can sign one of those forms and then they can provide the details there. But with our social workers, we kind of have to look and see what is it that they need from APS? Is it like collaborating because they're currently working on something and they just kind of need the additional hands-on support from APS and our contracts and programs, or do they just want to know the outcome? Because if they want to know any kind of outcome, they can just connect with the client themselves. But if there is something where they need to work together and they do sign that form, then a social worker will then agree to work together. But it kind of all depends case by case.
And I saw there was a question, do you happen to know what the percentage of the elderly population within Contra Costa County is? So let me pull up that dashboard real fast. So this is from the latest data is from 2025. It's from the California Department of Aging, and then as of now, it's like about 26%, 60 and above. Hope that answers. Thank you.
Scott, I see that your hand's up.
Hi, thank you. Yes, I believe that I'm here representing the Contra Costa Crisis Center because of our involvement with the coordinated entry system. But you all may know that we also answer the APS CPS lines after hours. And so I have a question in that regard, that of course we get a number of callers, and a lot of them, what we call discretionary callers, well, whether on the APS or the CPS line. And I just want to confirm, I hope I'm correct about my understanding, is that particularly with the APS calls, whether mandated or discretionary, that APS does not take any immediate action on nights or weekends. But I just want to confirm that understanding.
Correct. We only work Monday through Friday, I believe 8 to 5. So if one if there is a crisis situation, you want to call law enforcement, and then we'll get to it to provide, long-term services. And when we say we respond immediately or within 24 hours, that's business hours. So if somebody does call after hours at 8 p.m. on a Friday, when we will go out immediately, that means Monday at 8 a.m. once they get assigned to a social worker. So very important that we do go out as soon as possible, but if something is in crisis, please call the appropriate agencies that do provide crisis support.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And to add on, the online reporting portal that I think Jamie shared it in the chat as well, that's also for if it's more of a non-urgent situation. So if it is a more urgent, but not, 911 level or crisis, it's best to call APS if it's more urgent. So when you look online, the portal, it will also note that as well. They'll ask you to check more to verify that it's not a urgent situation if you make the report online.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions?
I want to thank you both for this training. And I wanted to remind folks, we do a quick survey just to see if the training met your needs, or there are things that you want more information on. We will share out the recording. We're going to share out the slide deck. And also, Daisy and Aaron put in their information in the slides. I'm sorry, Erica. So if you have questions that you need directly to ask them directly, you're able to do that. And as always, you can reach out to us.
Yeah, and then lastly, I just want to input that we have a great team with our Home Safe program. Some of our members are here. Shout out to them because they're amazing. If you guys have any specific questions about the Home Safe program, feel free to email me and we can definitely chat about a specific case and if it does fall under APS criteria to get the support from us. Remember that our clients for APS Home Safe are typically individuals that are independent and just kind of need assistance to help get permanent housing or stay in their current housing situation. But we'll be happy to work with agencies that kind of need a little bit of our assistance with Home Safe, so that way they can potentially stay where that they're at and prevent them from being homeless. A lot of our clients that get Home Safe support are just clients that are at risk of homelessness and not actually homeless clients, because it's kind of harder for them to want to seek support. But we're happy to work with anybody in those two categories. So please message me if you guys have any more questions specifically about Home Safe or want to understand the program and how to get that support.
Great, thank you. Great, and Daisy and Erica's emails are now in the chat. You're welcome to hang out if you have any other questions. Otherwise, you are welcome to go. Just please take a minute and do our quick survey and have a great Monday.
Thank you guys.
Thank
you
you.
all.
Thank you.